IGN's Comic-Con coverage brought to you by Death Race. In theaters August 22nd.
What was it when the two of you and the three of you sort of came together to create this? This was the setup that you agreed upon. Like, how did that happen?
Well, we were approached by Paramount. We'd all just done Asylum, Paramount Comedy Channel. We all had just done a show together called Asylum, on a ridiculous. I mean, if space was a low budget, I mean, they wanted Asylum made for about sort of £5.50, and Edgar made this incredible, show from nothing. And me and Simon wrote together, and then after that, Simon and I were approached to write something else. The producer saw that we kind of got on well, and our writing and performance styles were quite similar. And I was really, really keen to write with Simon again and Edgar again. So we sort of sat down and thought about what we might do, and I wanted to write something that was about my experiences living out of home between the ages of 18 and 24, and create a sort of world in which Simon and I, and at that point Julian Barrett, who was also in Asylum, could kind of exist as comedy characters and sort of, interact and create a kind of a universe really for some idiosyncratic, authentic characters in a world that I could relate to. In a world that I could relate to and that reflected my experiences, because at that point there was nothing on television that came anywhere near what was kind of going on in my life. So when we kind of sat down and started thinking about it, there was an idea that we wanted to kind of elevate it from the sort of grit. There was a lot of kind of comedy that was quite sort of gritty and realistic, shaky camera, a bit kind of docu, and I definitely didn't want to do that, and neither did Simon. And Edgar's style has always been so cinematic and so filmic, and so skilled in that way that it's sort of, come on. So it kind of, at that point as writers, kind of our ambition was tied in with his great skill. So we just decided to try and conceive of the most ambitious, the funniest, the best, the most original sitcom we could come up with. And that was Spaced!
How did you guys, like, when you're writing and when you're directing, like, how much of that, those, like, geek references, like little things, like you doing the mashed potatoes in the Devil's Tower, like things like that, how did you settle on those? It's like, I just want that in the script. Did you improv any of it, or was it all scripted?
I'll get it. The references tended to come out of the story and the characters rather than vice versa. We didn't go, we didn't say, let's reference this at this point. It just, whenever we got to a point, if we figured, that's a little bit like that, we'd realize it literally, because we kind of figured that Spaced was a kind of account of two people's lives who are living their lives through popular culture. So it's almost as if what you're seeing is how they would tell the story of their lives. It was like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It was like The Shining. It was, it was like I was in a video game. It was that kind of thing. And, certain episodes had certain themes, like the whole, like episode 2, the mashed potato thing, the reference to Close Encounters goes through that episode right to the end. That's like a theme about going up into the party. So it's just, we just tried to weave them in as organically as possible. It wasn't like, we didn't set out to be the pop culture referencing show. That wasn't the thrust of it. The thrust was to do a realistic kind of apartment share sitcom for people in their 20s who are a little bit geeky, and who have very specific likes. And a lot of the people that were writing those kind of shows were like just so out of touch. They were like in their 50s. There were shows that were on TV that were just about, goofy guys all sharing a flat, and there's a pretty girl, and some of them have sex, and they say things like, I'd love to shag her, and it's like, who speaks like that? No one. So that's what we did.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is your first time at the convention, right? This is your first Comic-Con, and you guys certainly aren't strangers to it. Have you sort of seen anything, or like whether it's a property or costume or cosplayer or whatever this year that's like really sort of blown you away or really impressed you?
Once again, I was handed an action figure of myself that I'd never seen before. I don't know why these companies that make these things don't send them to my house prior to them being in the shops. I keep getting given that, and then there was this thing, and I opened a box, and there was a little plastic me. I want a free one.
Yeah, we want some free shit, Sideshow Collectibles. That means you. Don't just fucking put them on the shelves without giving us the freebies. We're talking to you, Sideshow Collectibles.
I saw a guy today. I saw like 3 dudes yesterday who were all dressed as your character from not Hot Fuzz, but Shaun of the Dead. With the,
I think it's Shaun of the Dead. We created the Halloween costume for lazy people. It's a good one to do, but it's kind of an easy one to do, which is good. But You've got to have a good kind of cricket bat though. I think sort of like people, and a lot of people over here say cricket paddle, but as long as you got the cricket bat, that's a good start. But Sean is, I think it's more impressive to see people in Hot Fuzz costumes because they're fucking hot on the convention floor. And so
Very sweary in this interview.
I know it's IGN can take it. They like a few cuss words.
Can you talk a little bit about what each of you got going on?
Yeah, I've been writing a couple of things. I've been writing 4 different things, 2 comic book adaptations, Ant-Man for Marvel, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, which is happening later on this year, and me and Simon have another script, and then I have a thing that I'm writing on my own, and yeah, so lots going on. Simon.
I'm writing something with Nick Frost, which we should be going into production with early next year. There's a couple of other things that I'm doing, which I can't really say anything about yet. Jess and I were just talking the other day about the possibility of writing something together, which is very exciting. And I am, of course, playing the part of Chief Engineer Montgomery Scott in a little-known film series known as Star Trek. Star Trek 11. Which I don't know. It was on TV once, and then yeah, Bobba Jabba, all those guys. It's not many people know about it. It's on the down low.
I'm doing a series with Julia Davis for BBC Two next. Julia Davis is I think Britain's foremost character comedian, and she's fantastic. She's she did Nighty Night and Human Remains, and she was in Blue Jam, and we did a radio show last year and the year before, just improvised on an arts radio station, and lots of characters came out of that, and we're doing a series for BBC Two, and I'm writing a film and thinking about now writing a comic. Actually, after being here, I'm very inspired. So yeah, lots of stuff going on.